Hello, welcome to another podcast, Coffee and Conversation with Dr. Wade. Today we have Tonya Hill, who's going to talk with us a little bit about the foundation at DAC, kind of who she is, and what we have to offer students that come in. And eventually we will also probably circle back around to mental health and taking care of people and so on and so forth. So Tonya, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for coming. So just a quick question. What is the a little bit, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay.
And how did you kind of come to be
The foundation director?
the foundation director?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I am a DAC graduate. I graduated from DAC in 1993, so I'm kind of telling my age a little bit. So went on to work after DAC, stayed connected to DAC, and when in 2009, Tracy, my predecessor, asked me to be on the scholarship selection committee.
Okay.
And so I started reading scholarships back in the day when the scholarships were paper applications. And so I would sit at night and there's paper all over my living room, and you had to pick one student for each scholarship. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I would always tell my husband, I wish we could just give every student that applies a scholarship. I said, that would be a goal that we need to do. So fast forward, I became a DAC trustee.
Okay.
I was elected in, served 3 years, still was serving on the scholarship selection committee. And then I'd been talking to Tracy and said, hey, whenever you retire, wasn't expecting anytime soon, but said, hey, I would absolutely love to do what you do. My heart's just in it. And the connection I had to DAC that, they made me who I was. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. Well, it was a year later, she called and said, hey, I'm moving on to Parkland. And I wanted to say boo, but I didn't because I thought, oh, okay.
Hate to see you go.
But okay.
Love the new opening.
Yeah. So I had to step down as a trustee, of course.
Okay.
And I told them I had a lot more to offer as far as raising money for students for scholarships. And so then in September of 19, they hired me to be the foundation director. And so I've been doing this now for 4 years and absolutely love it.
Okay. Yeah. So now prior to, obviously reviewing applications and being a trustee, what did you do as like your daytime job? I'm assuming
The career-wise. Yeah. So when I graduated from DAC, I started at Cellular One. Okay. Which is probably how I met the majority of the people that I know in Vermilion County, because I'm pretty sure I've sold everybody their first phone.
Is Cellular One even around?
No.
Okay, I was like,
no.
They kind of went out with like Nokia,
AT&T,
didn't they? Okay.
Yeah, AT&T purchased them.
Okay.
So they shut down, and I was one of the first 10 employees of Cellular One.
Yeah, I remember Cellular One at the mall.
I opened that store.
There was like in the corner.
In the corner by Bath & Body Works.
The mall, for a lot of maybe the younger listeners, there used to be a time where there were stores at the mall.
Yes.
And a food court.
I just had that conversation with my 19-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm like, the mall used to be hopping, Target went in, Sears, JCPenney. I mean, you could move in the mall at Christmas.
Yeah.
So, yes, I was at Cell One.
I remember when Burger King was there.
Yeah, Burger King. Yeah,
I'm really kind of
and the food court was like
there was a pizza place,
Sbarro's.
Yeah, and there was a Burger King. Yeah,
the candy store.
Yeah, there was a candy store.
It was right beside us. It was bad.
Yeah,
it was all bad. So, so I did that until 2005, and then I went to A.G. Edwards. I was a financial associate.
Okay. For
about 4 years. And then I had a girlfriend say, hey, I had obtained my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
This kind of fits into the financial aspect of students. I got my associate's degree and went to work. Mm-hmm. I waited 8 years to obtain my bachelor's degree, but Cell One paid for it.
Okay, nice.
So I tell students that all the time. I am not a traditional student, and that's okay. Sometimes you need to work. Sometimes you need to figure it out. Maybe you're not really sure what you want to do to keep going. But if you can go on, we highly recommend it. But if not, it's okay. Sometimes you have to go through other doors to get where you need to be. So Cell One paid for my education. So I had zero educational debt.
Nice.
I paid for my entire DAC degree on my own by saving money and knowing I was the first student in my family to go to school. So I knew what I wanted. And so you just have to have a mindset too and have wonderful people along the way to tell you how to get there. So I ended up at Old National Bank in the trust department in 2009 as a trust officer. And absolutely love that too. Worked with families, estate planning. So that was kind of my sales experience at Cell One and my financial planning at A.G. Edwards coming together. And then Jim Anderson, who was the president of Old National, decided he was in between there. I did move up to doing lending, small business lending. And then Jim decided to retire and they asked me to step into his position. So I became the market president.
Okay.
So I was served on 8 boards at that time, one of them being the DAC trustee. And then I was also on the Library Foundation board for over 10 years.
Nice.
And I've served on a lot of different boards. We'd be here all day if I told you all of those. But all of that together brought me to this position. The connections, the community, all of that has led me here to help me go back out into the community and tell the story about DAC and what our students are doing here and what our instructors are doing.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I mean, I love DAC. I've been here since 2008. Started here part-time as a part-time faculty member. Attended DAC for a semester out of high school. And one of the things I've really gained to appreciate at DAC is that we have a lot of different people in a lot of different roles and leadership roles and faculty roles who are first-generation students. And I think that I love hearing people coming in and like, oh yeah, I do this here, and I'm, I started at DAC. I was a first-time, college student in my family, and I really do. I think that's a nice thing to represent. That a lot of us came up the non-traditional way.
Yeah.
And so, but I also come back to thinking too is there is a connection between, I'm assuming, raising funds and knowing people who have funds.
Right. Absolutely. So that's where my past comes into play. And serving on other boards and getting to know those donors, right? And in a small community like this, we all probably have the same donors.
Okay.
In a lot of aspects. Now, I tend to get newer donors because what happens is students will graduate and they'll go on, and then I'll see them at my door 2 years later or 5 years later saying, how do I start a scholarship? Because I was given a scholarship when I was here and I want to give back now. So scholarships can range anywhere from $100 to full rides. So it's all about what they want to make it. So they're like, well, I don't have a lot of money. I said, you know what? Every dollar counts. So the connections with the community, and I'm everywhere. Everybody always ask me if I ever stay home. But I always say to be seen is to be heard. So I'm out there doing the community things, and I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I'm a social person, and I love people. So, but I always get in the conversation about what I do, or I get to tell a student's story, or I get to tell an instructor's story. So that's why you see me everywhere. Sometimes I'm just listening, not a lot because I do like to talk, but and then I bring that back and say, hey, what can I do with that? Yeah.
There's I think everyone wants to be, I've spent, time, obviously, I've been in the nonprofit world, I've been in the for-profit world, I've had lots of different jobs and roles. And I've interacted with a lot of different professionals at different levels, different calibers, different economic classes that I'd really like to be up there with you, but I'm not. Right. And I think everyone wants to help people get, the majority of people who have at one time been helped or assisted or given an opportunity tend to want to return that. And I think, that idea of students coming back or, people who were once a student here that are now running a
Yeah.
company in town, or
Yes.
all of those things are, I think, so connected to one another that it's like tapping into a lot of the investments that the college made early
on. Sure.
in students that is now kind of grown into.
Yeah.
I know we were at the trio event, and one of the board members came and talked. I can't remember, the younger gentleman.
Oh, Dylan
Dylan.
Hahn,
I know.
yes.
Bob Dylan's my
Yeah.
favorite artist. I can't believe I didn't remember Dylan. And got to meet him for the first time. And he
Oh, really? Yeah.
went kind of the same.
Yes, he was a student trustee when I was
Yeah,
a trustee. He was fabulous.
Yeah, and so he kind of
Yes.
talked a little bit about his, coming here and then being in the workforce, and then going back to school, and being in the workforce, and then going back to school. And I think it was really kind of an inspiring story of like, you can kind of see that
Progression,
path.
yes.
Yeah,
And so he and his family just started a scholarship.
nice.
Yeah. And his brother came through. His dad took some classes here. So there's a whole family DAC story there. Another younger one is Haley Seifert.
Okay.
She works for Keller Williams now, but she was a DAC graduate. She was a DAC student trustee. She's out doing very well. She started a scholarship. So, yes, you're right. It all comes back around full circle. So, and of course I have one, and hoping to make that an endowed legacy. So when I'm no longer on this earth, that I'm still giving back. So those are other ways, families want to remember people. So they start scholarships in their memory, and it goes on forever, and we have their story. And so we tell the students that story with whatever scholarship they get, so they know the background.
So you've been here since 2019 in this position. Have you seen I know in the business world you like to do we like to tend to count or see how well we've done.
Yeah.
Has the foundation grown under your
yes.
leadership, and to what degree? I mean,
Yes.
not to be. I don't want to be
No. It's
boastful.
fine. No. So when I started, the foundation had $14 million in assets, and this
Okay.
is anything I'm not telling. It's not because we're all public, right? $14 million, and we now have almost $22 million.
Sweet.
So in 4 years. So yes, but that's all due to our community and me being out telling the story and saying these are our needs. I always we did a small little capital campaign. It was going to be a big one, but COVID hit and we had to shut it down. But we raised like $4 million during that.
Nice.
So the community sees the need.
And then those, like, when you get those things and you put those, obviously you have $22 million in assets.
Yes.
I'm assuming that money kind of builds future money? Or?
Yes. So we put the endowed money in a pot, and
Okay.
it's invested.
Okay.
And we take the dividends and interest off of that, and that's how endowed scholarships pay
Okay.
out. We do have some donors that will tell us, go ahead and invade the principal of that, and they have to give us that direction. We don't touch it otherwise. So if you give me $10,000, the dividends and interest off that $10,000 is what pays the scholarship. So we've had some endowed scholarships that have been in the pool for a long time, and they're paying out quite a bit. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that kind of, using, kind of a practice of, investing and then, pulling off of, you always have that principle there. And so to me, it's like,
So we have farmland. We've been gifted farmland.
Okay.
So that's part of our assets. We have life insurance policies that donors give us, and they pay the premium, and so that's considered an asset.
Oh, nice.
So those are all part of our assets.
Okay.
But upon them passing, then we get the insurance policy. So there's different moving parts to our assets as a whole. But as far as monetary, we have $15 million in monetary donations that we use for the dividends and interest to pay out for scholarships.
Now, last year, how much did you guys pay out?
Last year we paid out over $945,000.
Were there any students who didn't get a scholarship they applied for?
Nope. Every student received a scholarship for 2 years in a row, actually. Yeah. So when I started and I interviewed, they asked me what my goals would be, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
That every student received a scholarship, and we did it last year and this year, and we're hoping to do it again next year.
Yeah, and that was kind of a goal you had when you were in your
when I was
living room grading,
yeah.
or not grading, but looking over applications.
It's
Like, man, it'd be nice if everyone.
Yeah, everybody received at least one. Some students received 2 and 3. Yeah. So that equaled about 646 scholarships, because some scholarships, like the Sargent, Meyer, and Deckard, that one pays out 10 scholarships. So just depending on the size of the scholarship fund of how many that pays out. And, some donors want to pay out 500, some want to do 1,000, some do full ride. So they're all variable, and they set the criteria for the scholarship. So I tell them all the time, if you want to say they need to have a flamingo and a dog, okay, they have to have those or they're not getting your scholarship.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to put that into perspective, but the donor makes the scholarship. They say, here's what we're looking for in a student. Now, I tend to lean more now towards general, right? Because a lot of these students coming in from high school, a lot of them don't know what they want to do. Now, there are some that do. Some know they want to be doctors and nurses and welders, and they know what they want to do, but there's a lot of students that just still are not sure. So they check general because they're getting and that's what we do. We're a community college. You get your general studies out of the way and maybe some specialties along the way. But so we need more general scholarships. And then my new goal is to get all scholarships up to at least $1,000. And I think 77% last year received at least $1,000. So
Yeah, and I think kind of, I tell students, I'm like, everyone apply. Like, start, like, everyone apply. Start sending me, announcements to start writing the letters. And I know there's been many times, like, I'll get a letter from an email from a student like, hey, I just stumbled upon the scholarship. I just applied for the scholarship. Can you write me a letter of recommendation or a reference? Like, oh yeah, when's it due? And they're like, tomorrow.
Or in
like,
2 hours.
In 2 hours. And, so it's really nice to, that these scholarships can be, acquired or accessible, even if students stumble upon them later
on. Yeah.
And I know I've had many students, like I told them on a Wednesday, like, hey, scholarships are open or scholarships are getting ready to close. Like, you might want to look, see if you can apply. And they're like, oh, where do we go? And I'm showing them a page and they're like, all right, I'm going to work on that today. And so it's really nice to see that, even as students kind of come into finding out about things, that we can still get them help or get them something.
And I
process.
believe I like to tout that we have the easiest application. It's online. It's one application for over 600 scholarships. All they have to do is put their student ID in, and it populates all the general things.
Okay.
And then they go through and answer questions. You mentioned Burger King. One of them is, are you an employee or a dependent of an employee of Burger King? Yes. Well, what that means is they get thrown into the Burger King bucket. Right?
Nice.
And so they give first dibs to those students. And if there are no one that checks that box that they work for Burger King, then all the other students flow in. So they get put to the top of that scholarship. So all those questions those students are answering are very important that they answer them correctly, because it could be a make or break or whether or not they're thrown into a particular scholarship.
Yeah, which pot they're going to be put into.
Right. Like Alan Wilson, our, automotive instructor, he has a scholarship in memory of his son. And so his is, if you're interested in applying for his scholarship, you have to write a little blurb about what freedom means to you, because his son was in the military. You don't have to be in the military. You just have to, he wants to know what freedom means to you. So you write a little blurb in the box, and that throws you into Alan's bucket. So there's a reason for every one of those questions. And so the application opens January 3rd, and I'll repeat this many, many times.
Okay.
And we're going to close it on May 1st. We're extending it out farther.
Okay.
So hopes that we get more students to apply. A lot of them, it starts kicking in, like the high schoolers come out here and do their little tour. Usually, I think in April. So we were shutting it down at the end of March. So we're losing another month there. And we did that because we wanted to go to the high school honors programs and say, I would stand up there for an hour saying all the students that got scholarships at each particular school. And I know everybody's like, they're excited, but they're like, oh, when is she going to stop? So that's why we were closing it early. We now are just going and announcing the presidential scholarships, which are the top 15% of the class at their honors programs. And then the other students are alerted. Well, they'll know in 2 weeks into May. Or the end of May if they've received a scholarship, but it's for the coming fall anyway. So, yeah.
And I know I have a lot of times where students will have to be out of class to go to the event and the scholarships and acknowledgement of their scholarships and meet the donors and it's kind of a big deal. I mean,
it's a big deal.
I always think about how we go about investing in people, and there's kind of the the way I kind of see it is like, it's awesome if you get a full ride scholarship. Yeah. It's awesome if you get $1,000 scholarship. But even the acknowledgement of receiving something, like you did this, we think that you have shown and we're going to invest. Don't even know you. We're going to invest this money into you as a college, as a community. And I think that can say a lot just because it's, we don't have to, but there are people out there that want to invest in you. And, you get from $1,000 to all right. I mean, $100, that's a textbook, or that's
absolutely
a gas card, or,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
$100 is $100.
Yeah, well, and fees. There's all the tech fees, lab fees. So there's fees that sometimes students don't understand as well. They see what tuition is, but they don't see all the other things that come with that sometimes. And when they get hit with that, they're like, "What is this?
Where'd that one come
Where
from?"
did that come from?" So
I remember those days. Yeah, I went to Indiana State, and I had they decided to build a new rec center, and it's massive. And they started collecting fees before it was built. And I remember, but they're like, it's okay, I know we're collecting. They don't say okay, but they're like, we're collecting fees, but if you graduate, you can come back and use the facility. And I'm like, I'm paying for something that's not even, and it's a beautiful facility.
Right.
It's beautiful. Right. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into providing labs and providing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
spaces.
On that side of it, I write grants.
Okay.
So I kind of go around and talk to the instructors, the deans, and I go to the meetings and I hear what the needs are, and we have the state fundings and all that. But if I can write a grant from the outside, then that helps with money that they can put somewhere else within the college. And so, I've written quite a few grants to get mannequins and stuff for the simulation lab over in nursing. We need those things. We need those nurses in training to be able to slide right into the work field. And so they have the technology over there now that they're using in all the hospitals. So when our nursing students graduate, they know what they're doing. And I've been told that by employees at the hospital. They're like, we're thinking, 3 or 4 months training. They're like 2 or 3 weeks, they're good to go. They know what they're doing already. Yeah. So, I wrote the grant I don't know if you've seen it. I say this wrong, and I know Dr. Nacko and I were saying it wrong, but he says it right now. I still say it wrong. It's the automatage table. It's a surgery table. It's it's like a surgery table. It's just a surgery table.
Surgical table.
Surgical table. Yeah.
You and your fancy words.
I know. So we have the cadavers, right? Uh-huh. Well, those will slowly we'll probably have maybe one, Mr. Blue, I don't know. But this takes the place of the cadavers. So it's like it's a surgery table. It looks like a big laptop, right? You turn it on, and they're actually, if you gave yourself to science, they take your picture, they do all that, and then you say, I want to see, a male body comes up. And then you take your scalpel pencil, right, and say you want to work on the arm. The arm lifts up. You open it up. It all opens up. You've got to go over and see that if you have not seen it.
Yeah, it
It's super
sounds cool. Yeah.
So
yeah,
those kind of things, which robotics is becoming a thing in hospitals. But anyway, so yes, I write grants. The U.S. Army Reserve building that the college purchased. So I wrote a grant to Hegler Foundation for $3 million. We were awarded that. That's how that renovation's happening.
Sweet.
So I raise money for other things as well as scholarships. So
feel free to raise some money from my Connection Cafe. Feel free to raise away.
hey, what you're doing is a wonderful
Yeah,
thing, and
so-
there are many out there that appreciate that. So you never know when somebody might come forth and say, "We would love to help boost that."
Because I am a recipient of
An endowed chair.
endowed chair. So I know I had applied for one. So I had kind of built the cafe, during COVID, variety of like Uber drove and, did just a lot of like gig work and sold my albums and like did all this stuff to build the cafe. And one of the concerns I had was I had all the material, the equipment, which is usually the big upfront cost. And I was like, man, now I have to give coffee to 100 people. And I'm like that. And so it was really nice when, Dr. Bridges had sit out, here's some, and there were some specifically for the liberal arts.
Yes.
And so I had applied for that one. And I had applied for another one that I'm still waiting to hear from.
Yeah. So we not only raise money to scholarship students, we scholarship instructors.
Yeah. And I think it's awesome.
And the donors realize the instructors have more. I mean, you hear it all the time with, K through 12, what all the teachers have to purchase on their own to make sure these students have what they need. And you all are in that same boat.
Yeah.
So
I plan on applying every year.
Should.
Every year they're open.
You should.
I plan on applying every year.
You should. Yeah.
So it's been really kind of beneficial just to, because, once again, that's, the college putting investment in me and what I'm trying to accomplish. Therefore, then I can try to invest and put into students.
Right.
And I really do believe it goes full circle.
I do too.
But I think a lot of times we don't always think about, because we have the foundation, but we also have a clothing bank. We have
a food pantry.
Food pantry.
The foundation's actually in charge of the food pantry, which is huge. Trio just did the, Giving Tuesday they do every year, and it's amazing.
We're doing the sock drive.
Yeah. So, yes, I do want to mention the food pantries on the second floor of the admin building. Anybody can utilize it, faculty, students, as long as you're on campus. You can utilize it. Just come up and see us and we'll let you in. Myers actually gifted us $5,000 to purchase a refrigerator.
Sweet.
Which we should be receiving at the first of the year. So we'll be able to offer maybe some fresh veggies and dairy and things of that nature that we can't really provide right now on a smaller scale, but we plan on having some of that. We have a freezer. We had a donor that given us money. Now we've had the freezer for 2 years, I think. So we'll go out and buy like hamburger meats. We put in there frozen lunches. Yes, we have the Jaguar Cafe, which is wonderful, but some students can't afford to do that. And so they can come up to us and they can get a Hot Pocket or a pizza or some soup. And so we tell everybody, come see us. Anybody can come see us. You don't even have to have a need. If you got up late and you need a Pop-Tart, come get it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I always talk to like my friends, I work in Danville. I live in Lafayette, and I'm always talking to people about DAC. I love DAC. Like,
I do too.
I am like I
get on my DAC soapbox all the time.
I tell Cassie all the time. I was like, man, if I could live next to campus, I would. Like I love DACC, and I think one of the things I love about it is it's not just a college. I mean, it is a college, but it's not just. We provide all of these different services and different things to our our student body and our community. We have a community ed program. We have corporate education. We have very accessible foundational scholarships. We have food banks, clothing banks. We have trio services. We have a therapist that comes in a couple times a month or a week. Like we have all of these basically human service elements.
Yeah,
and also academics. And to me, I really do believe that those go hand in hand, that there is a I remember many times as a college student choosing between rent and groceries. Like, and generally, once I figured out that you could go a certain period of time
Without paying
without
rent.
being evicted, groceries always won. But I remember feeling that, I was telling some students yesterday, I was like, I ate a lot of spaghetti.
Right.
And sometimes with sauce and sometimes without. Like,
yeah. Sometimes with some butter.
yeah, some butter. Like, is I having garlic powder yet?
Yeah.
Or I'm just hungry and I'm going to scarf this down. But I remember that kind of spilled into other arenas of my life because it's like I'm trying to accomplish goals that are, very much probably at the time I did not believe I could do or accomplish. Yeah. And I was like, I don't have groceries. And I'm working and I'm trying to pay my rent and I'm trying to pay my insurance. And, and this whole like balancing act that it's nice to have some safety nets. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we all fall, we all stumble.
Absolutely. But we learn from it.
Hopefully. And we learn from it.
Yeah.
And,
hopefully we learn from it. Yeah.
We can't keep people from falling, but maybe we can cushion the landing a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that I most appreciate about, being a part of, the DAC community and what we do as a college, because we are very, very, very much more than just.
We really are, and we have student emergency services funds. So it's a one-time thing. They can come up and apply, and we tell them it's a one-time thing. And we've even had students pay it back. So if you pay it back, you can actually come back up and get it again. But if you don't pay it back, that's fine. So we give out bus tickets, bus fares. We've helped a student purchase some glasses because if you can't see, and we understand those things, but we have donors that give to the emergency fund.
Nice.
We do have a form you have to fill out, but within reason, we usually grant that. But like you said, we know there are needs. We know people fall a little bit or, life happens, right? It's happened to all of us. And we're lucky that we have a place in DAC that can provide those things and keep our students going, right? Yeah. We talk about enrollment. We talk about graduating. That's going to get them graduated. We've had many students in our office in tears thanking us. And so I get all the feels in my office. Yeah. And I relay those on to the donors. But I have a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I always come back to that idea is that, we never, when I think back about all the things that led to my success, most of them at the time were very small gestures. They weren't large scale. Mm-hmm. They were occurrences and interactions with people along the way that made me feel that I had something to offer.
And you could do it.
That I could do it. And you were some way committed to my success. I had a professor in my undergrad. And I was kind of bad. Like we had a food court and I would steal like I wouldn't say steal because they were out there, but I mean, if there were crackers out, like the oyster crackers, I would just grab, I'd throw them in my bag. I worked at a hospital, so anytime that the, administration or the Pfizer people came by and dropped off food, I just
yeah, I'm on it.
Yeah. And I remember I was eating, I was at a table, I was eating, eating some of my stolen crackers. And I had this professor walk by, and she was my math professor, and she was super cool and super kind. And she's like, asked me, she's like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, just having a snack. She's like, "Are you eating oyster crackers?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Come with me." And at Indiana State, they had this. They had Einstein's Bagel, but behind that, they had like this sit-down restaurant where it was a kind of like what you would. Kind of like the culinary department. Yeah. And they made really good meals. And it was like kind of like a buffet style. And they had pork chops and ribs. And she's like, "I want to buy you lunch." And it was just interesting because it really, I always hated math.
Yeah.
I was never a big fan of math. And it was like, she stopped. She checked in on me. And and I don't know. Maybe it's just like she didn't want to eat lunch alone. I have no idea. But there was something about that interaction.
She saw the potential in you.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot that she just, took me to lunch. And she's like, "You're really hungry," and she's like, "You can have all you want." I'm like, "Sweet." So it was really nice. It really, and just a couple other really really small ones. So I don't think we have to do these big giant.
No, it's just somebody believing in you. And I had those people as well. Glenda Keatsman, when I started at Cell One, she was running the chamber with gay hair at the time, and they came to do the business after hours, and I worked the table, and we just got to talking, and she said, "You need to join, and here's what you need to do." And she kind of took me by the hand, and she goes, "You're in sales. You need to get out, and you need to meet these people," which I've never been bashful. I'm like, okay. So she saw that in me, that I could do that. And then here, I did the business administration route, and Mrs. Satterwhite and Miss Hobben and Jensen, the whole crew there, believed in me. And I knew that, and they would correct me on things, and, and say, "Here's how you need," because I worked at First Midwest Bank while I was attending school here. So of course I had to dress up every day. And so they taught me those life skills, life skills, and how you customer service. And I didn't receive any scholarships. So, but I had them. I had the human factor in that. But I think along with our scholarships comes the human factor too. That's, as you mentioned earlier, why we have the honors program, because we let the students meet the donors. And I have donors in tears at that program some days, because they're just so excited to see these students excited about what they were excited about, and that they can give back and help these students. And when you see students in tears, I mean, it's a very emotional day. It's a very exciting day. We had over 500 people in the gym in September for our honors program. Yeah. So and some of those go on to be long-lasting relationships. Because they meet, and then they get each other's, numbers or emails, and they just stay connected, So we do that mentoring program here, or we were doing it before COVID hit. And
so I think a lot of things have kind of went to the back
hopefully
burner.
We'll get back to that. So I had mentors, and I still stay in touch with them. Just, even an email. "Hey, how you doing? Where you at? How's it going?" And they're just always right back to me.
And I don't know who the previous. So I've been here full time since 2018. So I came on August 2018.
So right before I start, yeah.
Yeah, and I had some, I think maybe some brief interactions. But I remember for the longest time, like I rarely ever went, to the other side of
the other side.
I like the other side. I know, it's like, I wanted to refer to us as the other side. Like,
south side, north side.
Across the yard.
Yeah. Right.
And I remember, so I'd every once in a while I'd go over get Subway, or I would, go in and check when, with advising if I was having a student that was, not doing well, or, if there was, just, and one of the things that I decided to do when I came on full time is, like, I left all my other positions. Like, I kind of worked holding out for a job at DAC. That was like my passion. I was like, I want to be here. I want to finish. It was
always my passion too. Yeah.
I just want to end up here, and it was a little bit of a long road, but it was definitely, it was a good road. And when I came on, I was like, I know the people in my building, the people I work with, the people I teach with. I'm like, but I really don't know much about DACC, as I knew a little bit of it as a student, and I knew it as a adjunct. And I'm like, I need to really learn what we have to offer. And so I started venturing over to the other side.
I noticed you with your fancy coffee cups.
Hey, all of those have been stolen. Like, I literally, my mom sent me, like, she got me, like, all of these, like, cups, and I had teacups, and I had coffee cups, and I'm like,
I was waiting to see which one you had. Yeah.
4 years later, I think I have one glass cup, and I think Ryan has one glass cup.
Yeah.
and maybe Dr.
You
Davis.
inspired
Yeah,
me.
and Dr. Davis has. They were all my cups. Like I gave them a drink in it, and they just never
Gave it back.
Gave it back.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have no.
Yeah.
I don't dare tell my mom because she'll just like
yeah.
sending me more cups.
Yeah.
But I remember like kind of venturing over and kind of partnering up with trio services, building relationships with admin, records, getting to know administration, getting to know you guys, and I think that there is I've referred to it many times as most of the things at DACC are like the best kept secret.
Yes, we are.
Like
the
we
best
have
kept
all of these like secrets of like
Yeah.
things that are awesome and things like our 3+1 program where not only can we save students thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
we can educate them, get them graduated, get them into our workforce, keep them in town, and it's like you ask
Yeah.
people about it, and like I have no idea what you're talking about. And many times I'll tell students about that. I'm like they're like, well, I don't. I'm like, everyone gets money. Like everyone gets money. Like I don't know how much, but
Yeah.
do it. And we have all of these things. And I think sometimes there's just a disconnect between students' needs and what we have, and
Right.
how do we bring those. Do students know about all the great things that we do and all the things that we have? And so have you guys taken on any like initiatives to get like this information out to the students outside of just going to the high schools and talking?
So we do. We put it in the paper, which unfortunately I don't know how many people read the paper anymore.
Do they still print the paper?
Yeah, they
Okay.
do.
I was just checking.
We put it in the paper. We put it on the radio. D102. We try. There's 3 of us in my office, right? So Gina came on. I had her come on full time about a year after I was on, and she's been wonderful. She's the scholarship coordinator. So she started going with me and learning how to talk to the students at the high school. So then that frees us up. So we're trying to get into the classrooms here because we're like, oh wait, we're doing the high schools. We got students out here that are going to be second year. They need to know how to apply. So I've also been talking to the instructors about, hey, would you when the application opens, would you take one day of your class and just have everybody log on? Because sometimes that's getting over that hump because they may not know their student ID or they may not be registered or whatever, glitch IT wise, which get them over that. Because if you're an instructor, you can say, okay, you need to go call Mark Barnes or whoever in IT or whoever, whatever the problem is. Maybe their name's spelled wrong. I don't know. Because when I go into the high schools, some of the kids will get on, you can do it on your phone. They'll get on their phone and they're like, hey, this is wrong. And I'll be like, okay, when I get back to the school, I'll fix it for you. So just getting over that hump of logging in. But once they log in, they don't have to finish the application. They can quit, go back in, and until they actually hit submit, it's in. And then if we always tell them if something's wrong, if we haven't closed it out, we can always open it back up. So we're trying to get out there more face-to-face with the instructors and the students here on DAC campus as well. But word of mouth, we all just need to get it out there. And like I said, opening it up January 3rd and closing it on May 1st gives us a longer time span. But any help of getting the word out, we appreciate it. And anybody can come up to our office. We will sit down with the students in our office or take them down to the lab. We have a lab right there on our floor and sit there with them and help them get started on it. The big thing about our application, the one thing I tell them is the essay. And we're not asking you to write a novel. We want you to tell us your story, like you and I sitting here talking right now. I just told you my story and my goals and why I'm here. And I was a first generation student to go to college, and so I needed help from others because my parents didn't go to college, which is fine. I was provided a wonderful home, wonderful parents, but I wanted to do something a little different. So I got that guidance. But any help we can get getting the word out, please.
Well, one thing I know. So I've over the last couple of years, I've really partnered with Trio and been kind of tracking and measuring just the cross campus engagement between me and their department and mine, and the benefit, and it does great wonders when we get people working together.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things that I asked them to do, because I have a large bulk of students that are just online, that they literally just take classes online.
See, I didn't even think about that.
What they did is they put together like a 5 or 6 minute trio video, and then I can send that to all my online students, and they can watch the video and get access. And so I think even like maybe something like, and we have an awesome.
So I have that. If you go to the DAC Foundation, you'll see my mug on there.
Okay.
We did that during COVID because we couldn't go out to the schools.
Okay.
So everything on there still applies.
Okay.
On how to apply for our scholarships.
Is it a YouTube video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can upload that into my classroom.
Actually, Laura came over and done it.
Nice. They do such great work.
They do great
So
work.
I think one of the things I will do before the close of the semester, I will send that out to all my
And
students.
I'm working on revamping our website. I'm not the techie guru either, working with our department to get that a little bit more upscale and more easier. We're trying to, and we're looking at the application again to some of the questions to make them easier. I mean, we don't want this to be difficult. We want them to answer the questions the donors have, and we want them to tell us their story. Because when you pull at that heart, ooh, that's what happened to me when I was looking at all those applications in my living room.
I know, It's like I want to give you all.
Yeah, so many students that are helping raise their siblings, and working and going to school. And, I get it. I didn't have to do that, but I see it. We see it being here on campus.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, if you bring, COVID back into the, what we went through over the last couple of years, and not only do our students need, and this kind of like wraps it back around to, some of the mental health components, but not only do they need, financial support, sometimes concrete support like transportation, financial assistance, relationships. They need relationships. And I think that idea of not only being able to connect, directly with, we know if you look at the research, when students, and it doesn't matter if you're at a 2-year school, at a 4-year school, when students are connected to people at the college, they do better. So if they know their professors, if they know their, they just do better. They just do so much better. They show up more. They have higher test scores. I mean, they just do all kinds of great things.
We become family.
Yes.
We become family. I mean, it's like your job. You're here the majority of the time, school, and you're home, you're here. And so they need somebody to depend on.
And so I think bringing those together, however we do, and really, I've kind of noticed over the, as I get older, it's like I keep having like these am I wiser now? I don't know that I'm any more wiser than I was.
You just had more experience.
Yeah, I just had more experience.
Yeah.
I just had more reflection.
Yeah.
But I always keep thinking about it. Sometimes we tend to lean into the things we're not. And, if we had that and we had this and we had this going on and that was available. And I think that when we lean into things we don't have, we lean away from the things we do have. And I think how do we figure out ways to really tap and plug people in to the things that are going on? Because I wonder sometimes, were there ever times where there was money left on the table from the foundation?
There in the past there was.
Yeah, it's like,
so that's another thing. I've been cleaning that up, and we're okay, here's this fund. What's this for? Let's get it out. I bring it in to put it out. So if it's not going out, donors are going to be like, hey, this money, what are you doing with it? That's what we're a flow through. So we need to get this out, to the students that need it. And it could have been a little fund that had $100, like I said, in it. Well, okay, let's find a student. We just contacted Dr. McConnell the other day. We had a donor that gave us $100 for a student in, I don't remember what class it was. Maybe it was an English class or something. And we said, just pick an outstanding student or somebody that you feel really needs the help, and we're just going to write that check for $100. So there has been in the past. And it's just because I don't really know why, but I'm working on that. I'm making sure it's going out and that, that it's going where it's supposed to go.
I know. I know from my years in the human service world, or even working with grants and funding sources, is the fiscal spin down. You're like, I have this much money left, and I have 3 weeks to get rid of it. Because there's especially when you're in like the helping world, or you're trying to get people to a better place, and you have resources. Those resources do no benefit being left on the table.
No.
Like they have to get out, and that might have been for that one person that you wrote that $100 check to. That may have been the difference between a good Christmas holiday, a good holiday season, or a dinner. Like you never really understand how much of an impact our little things we do are. And that goes both ways. I mean, the little investments we make go a long way, but also overlooking things can also cause problems as well. And, and I really do enjoy the things you're doing. And I love the fact that no one was left out that applied. Like, to me, that is, and I'm sure at the level, at that level, you have a whole different caliber of students. You have all these life experiences, all these different things. But that no one walked away empty-handed.
No. And that also helps enrollment, because now it's the word's out in our community, and more students are applying because they're like, well, hey, this is better than playing the lottery, even if it's a small amount.
You had these odds at the casino.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. So, and the thing of it is, we work closely with financial aid. So I think it's MAP comes off first, but then foundation money comes next. So if you've applied and got financial aid Pell, if you've got basically a full ride from us on a scholarship, all that other money goes into your pocket, hopefully for living expenses, food, things you need, not new sneakers and a big screen TV. I say that all the time, and the students will chuckle, but I'm serious. Right. You need to put that money back, because you never know what could happen, And some students have I don't know how I'm going to pay for spring. Well, we told you that money, because their fall was paid for. You got to put that money back and save it. So it's about financial literacy too, and we teach that. We try to teach that to them. You're right. I think sometimes the whole life skill thing has kind of been pushed to the side, that I was taught. I don't have checkbooks anymore. But those things, how to budget, that kind of thing. I just don't know that all the students get that sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's a combination of with young people, and this is not a jab at young people, and we know from a psychological standpoint and a developmental standpoint, the older we get, the better our decision making becomes.
Right. No,
I always tell my students, I saw a meme one time. They call it a meme. And it said, to be old and wise, you must have once been young and dumb.
Yeah. So, but we try to teach
smart.
that.
If you always make great decisions when you're young, you will not be very wise when you are older.
Yeah.
And I think that's a learning opportunity. But I think once again, people do better, and young people do better when they believe that the people around them, the people in charge, the people who have authority, really do care about their well-being. And I think when we invest in people, that first time they get that check, they may be more prone to come back to us next semester and say, hey, I know you kind of gave me some good advice,
and they do.
Would you mind helping me maybe kind of set up some things? But I don't think you get there without building those relationships early on.
And so that's what we try to do. We talk to them about that. Yeah. So a lot of them, I've had students say, we didn't apply for scholarships because we're getting financial aid. That's why you need to apply for scholarships, because that money will actually go in your pocket, because scholarship money actually gets put into the student's account.
Okay.
And if they don't use it for some reason, maybe they, I don't know, their expenses weren't as much as they thought they were going to be. So that money goes back into the donors fund. So the $100 we have, there's little things like that we'll do every now and then where we'll write a check, but the bulk of the student scholarships, 90% of them, go into the
Directly to
student's
their-
account. Yeah. And then it flows back to the donor if the money wasn't used. So, yes, we work very closely with financial aid and have a good partnership with them and work with the students to try and guide them along the way with that. So,
Now, so I mean, obviously you're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
And you got table money to get rid of.
yeah.
I don't know if you call it table money.
No.
I don't think that's the.
No,
I don't think that's
I
like.
think that's-
Is that not business lingo?
Yeah.
Let's do something with all this table money. But so we have like the casino coming in. Is there going to be opportunities with that new venture to incorporate more money into foundational stuff, scholarships? Do you see
Yeah.
anything coming down
From the casino side?
or just the
Yeah.
pipe down?
Yeah, well, they have told us once it's up and going that they're going to gift us
Okay.
a large donation, and that money will be used for students going into that field. You know, whether that's culinary, hospitality. I don't know if we're gonna have a card deal. I don't know much about. Yeah, I don't know.
That's when that table money would come back in, right?
That's where that. So yes, I do believe there is going to be an opportunity once that's up and running. Again, our community is great to us, and anytime anything new comes, we are at the forefront because they know that we, DAC, are providing students that can go out into the workforce. I tell people all the time, the best return on your investment isn't the market, it's a student. You're going to see them flourish. They may go away for 2 more years, but a lot of them come back. I mean, Dylan's, a walking example of that. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed here. I did the adult learning with Eastern, which was great. Went to school on the weekends at night, that kind of thing. But I stayed here, and I love this community, and I think there's more of us out there than anybody realizes. If you're ever in a group and you talk about DAC, you'll hear somebody say, "Oh, I went to DJC," which was when the college was at the high school, which is cool.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of donors. Say Dr. Nako's written an article, or you've written an article, or somebody here's written, and it clicks with them, right? And they'll call me like, "Hey, what can I do to help those students?" It's so cool. So yeah, there's always every day I'm humbled, every single day.
Yeah. So last question. I know we're gonna kind of wrap it up here. If you had a magic wand where you could just
Yeah.
what would you like that foundation to look like?
What would I like it to look like?
Yeah. Like every student 100% scholarships? Like what would be
Yeah,
your magic
no.
wand?
Well, I set small goals, right?
Okay.
Like I said, I would like to see every student that applied. I would like to see every student that is on this campus applying for a scholarship and again, receive something. So yeah, or like I said, $1,000, and then maybe I get it up to $2,000. So different things inspire me sometimes, and then I set that goal and I write it down. And so yeah, so we're at 22, but the time I retire, I'd like to see it at 50. That's a long shot, but you never know.
I have always found that, setting big goals, if you get halfway, you're better than if you didn't set one. But I also believe too is, inspired people, passionate people inspire other people to be passionate.
Yeah.
And so I think that, your energy, your enthusiasm, you wanting to do better, you wanting to create opportunities, your connection to the community, your connection to the college, those are all things that motivate people to be a part of something. And I think a lot of especially with the mental health and getting us to a better place as a healthy community, healthy
Right.
people,
It's huge.
is about getting people to be a part of things.
Yeah.
And, whether it's, serving a cup of coffee, whether it's, coming out and mentoring a student,
Yeah.
giving a $100 scholarship. I mean, any of those things I think are part of the solution to a lot of the bigger problems we
Yeah.
have.
And I you hit on something. So I tell the students, come to my office. It's open. My door's open. Come in. And the longer I'm here, the more I'm seeing that. And I had a student recently that down and out, and I think I need to drop this class. And if I do, they've been a straight A student and now they're getting a B. I'm like, it's not the end of the world. It's
B's
okay.
get degrees.
C's get degrees.
And C's get degrees too.
But you're doing it and you're doing hard things right now. And it's okay. Doing hard things is going to pay off. So I'm like, if you talk to your instructor, well, it's them learning to communicate. And maybe by talking to me or talking to you, it'll build that up too. So I reach out and I saw her yesterday and I said, hey, how you doing in that class? She's like, I got a high C. If I get this grade on my final, I'll get a B. I'm like, look, and you were going to just quit and you had to do it all over again. No, you're halfway there. Don't quit. So yeah, I think it's just the communication with a student and letting them know they can do it. We have all the resources, our tutoring. Anybody can help you. If I can't help you, I'll find somebody that'll help you.
Yeah. Or I have access to someone that can help
I have access to someone can help you. And I think that's what's good about DAC and all of us that work here is that I don't think any of us say, ooh, this is my job. I'm not veering outside that. We all branch out to do whatever we can do to help these students. So students need to be our first priority when we walk onto this campus. Well, when I'm not on campus, it's my priority, but you know what I mean? And I think, as you said, we are the best kept secret.
The day should begin and end with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All inspirational stuff, all inspiring stuff. I look forward to seeing what you're doing. And hopefully maybe this will get out to some people to learn about all the wonderful things that we have going on at the college. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in to our Coffee and Conversation with Dr. Wade. And look forward to seeing you guys next time.